How's that?
Are you kidding?
Oh, there he is. So a decent sized cast, not too far, because if you're too far away then there's too much stuff in the road. And then the edge is a slow old roll back in and wait for that clunk. Oh, like that. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. Oh. Might need 2 hands there, son. That's a fair sized chunk of lizard, that thing.
Look, I'm gonna opt to go the large brag mat on this.
Probably an idea.
welcome to everyone watching in Facebook land, everyone watching on YouTube. We are here at Drummoyne Sailing Club live. It's our second session update for the 2023 Daiwa BREAM Australian Open. I'm joined, Nicole from ABT, with Andrew Death. How you going, Andrew?
I'm good. It's been a good morning. Watching a lot of Steve on the on his live feed, so it's been entertaining.
We've got it playing here in the room at the Drummoyne Sailing Club. We're getting all these sailors into bream fishing. They're all keeping on Steve, what he's doing. He's got his Garmin sounder embedded on his live stream at the moment, so we all can see what's happening above and underwater. It's pretty cool stuff.
It is, yeah. It's been a bit of a masterclass on the Garmin LiveScope, how to catch bream using it, so yeah, definitely tune into that.
Yep, after you finished here, jump on his YouTube channel. It's just Steve Morgan. You'll search that and you'll see him live out on the harbour today and all day tomorrow. But good show lined up for today. We had our first weigh-in yesterday and Wally Fahey was sitting at the top of the leaderboard. Wally is hero or zero when it comes to his bream fishing, and when he heroes, like, he does it good and proper. So leading the Australian Open, pretty cool achievement.
Yeah, definitely. But the question on everyone's mouth today is, where's Wally? And at the moment, Wally is in 5th position, so he's still holding his own, but yeah, still a bit to do there.
So I can bring those leaderboard results up for us now. So we had our weigh-in here yesterday and the guys all put some bags on the scales, but out on the water we're running for the first time at ABT a bit of a hybrid event. So we've got some estimator scoreboards out for anglers on the water, so they're catching their fish, they're logging them through the app, they're just having a good old-fashioned guess based on their fishing knowledge. Yep. On what their bream weighs. We have given them all the length weight table that we use when we're doing our app events, so they've got a bit of a guideline. Bit of an interesting thing yesterday I noticed when we were doing the weigh-in, because I had the estimator scoreboard running and we had our weigh-in results coming in. It was the guys who were using that length weight curve religiously, like every fish was put in against the curve. They were all sort of within that 50 to 60 grams, just under of what their fish actually weighed. So that length weight curve is pretty spot on when it comes to an average weight for fish. Exactly.
And even with the weights that come in today, if you look at Steve, who was obviously following that, you can look back at the thing and you know exactly how long his fish are, so you can work the other way as well.
Yeah, so that's all on the ABT website. You can check that out and get up to speed on lengths and weights for bream. Interesting reading. So let's just have a quick look at that scoreboard. You've got it nice and big in front of you there. We've got it up on the screen as well. So we've got Steve Morgan. He's sitting at the top at the moment. He's having a cracker of a morning.
Yeah, he's been catching fish after fish, 3 pounds straight through on the muss mostly, and he's been upgrading for the last hour and a half pretty solidly.
So yeah, just in that last little bit, he has overtaken Tom Slater, who was pretty quick off the mark. I think he was the first one again today to get his 5 fish limit. Yeah. So both of those guys got 6 kilo plus bags, and we'll see if that's reflected on the scales this afternoon. Mitch Taylor, he was sitting down the scoreboard a little bit. He's had a bit of a comeback today, and I think we can talk a little bit about comebacks in the Open in a little bit. Yeah. Liam Carruthers sitting in there. Wally, like we've mentioned, he's in 5th place. Kris Hickson, Ahmed Burney, Jesse Roten and Daniel Bornacorso rounding out that top 10 on the scoreboards there. It was pretty cool to see this morning. Like, this is a Daiwa sponsored event. Daiwa huge supporters of ABT. Our bream events, they do the Daiwa BREAM series. They sponsor the Australian Open. Love the support from the crew. Got great products that work for bream fishing. The guys that design the products, they're out there fishing the tournaments themselves, so they know what works. But we had our top 5 go out this morning. What would you say? We had 4 out of the top 5?
Yeah, Daiwa anglers or using predominantly Daiwa products, so it's good to see.
Yeah, so that's Steve Morgan's got a very strong theory about sponsor karma. Using sponsors product in a sponsored event always seems to bode well, and it certainly did not hurt the anglers fishing the event this morning. And there's still Tom Slater, Wally Fahey, Kris Hickson, Jesse Roten, they're all still up in that top 10, so it's going to continue throughout the event. Let's just get rid of those scoreboards for the minute. We talked a little bit yesterday about the weather and the tide, so it's all shifted again a little bit today. It's a lot windier out there. Have you got a bit of an update for us?
Yeah, let's give us a rundown. So the forecast today was west to northwest winds at 15 to 25 knots, and that came through a little bit earlier than expected. By 8 o'clock, we were sort of gusting 20 knots-ish at times. which is obviously making conditions just a little bit tougher than maybe it was yesterday. We started off with a high tide at 6:26 a.m. at 1.58, which will run down to a low at half a metre at 12:39, so just towards the end of the session. And interestingly, we've had a major bite period at 8:29 to 10:59 to 11, and that's been accurate with how Steve's gone, particularly in the last half an hour. Half an hour maybe, he's really got onto him, so that's been pretty good.
Awesome. And yeah, so that weigh-in's probably going to be nice and windy for us this afternoon.
Yeah.
So, but that is all being live streamed on our ABT YouTube channel. So set the alarm for 2 p.m. when we see the guys come in. They'll be all wind blown and ready to get on some dry land, I think, this afternoon.
Absolutely.
That's enough from us for the minute. We have observers out on 12 of the boats fishing today. Our observers have been doing a fantastic job of keeping us updated back here at HQ. We're getting captures sent through, we're getting photos, they're helping the anglers put in those estimate weights. But most importantly, they've been able to get most of our anglers to give us a bit of an update. We've got some 30 to 60 second updates from the guys, just letting us know how their morning's going, what they're planning for the rest of the session. Why don't we check out a few of the anglers now?
Yeah.
And we'll come back to you and we'll talk a little bit more about the Australian Open's history, how we're here on Sydney Habour for 3 days, and a little bit about what this arena involves. So for now, we've got Liam Carruthers, Ben Breckenridge, and Peter Phelps. Stay tuned, we'll be back to you shortly.
Day 2, the BREAM Open, midday update. Just a pretty big grind again, similar to yesterday. We've gotten away with a slightly better start. We got a couple of those mid-range fish in the well early, but definitely swamped by rats. We had a bit of a bite period between sort of 8 and 9, and it's died right off. So wind's coming up, so my game plan will be to try and find every nook and cranny in this system out of the wind with a bit of structure, and see if we can just get rid of this two little rats in the well and keep grinding away.
We're here with Ben Breckenridge, having a tough morning here. How are you travelling?
Yeah, we had a good start. A couple of fish in the boat nice and early, get some little bag fish, but the bites sort of slowed down since then once the wind's up. So we're just going to work our way back down the harbour, pick our spots and try and get a bag, and then some upgrades maybe this Arvo.
Tuck away out of the wind?
Yeah, the wind's sort of blowing from the northwest, so there's plenty of sheltered areas in the harbour. But I always find as the tide runs out, the bite normally slows until it stops and turns. So we'll just bide our time maybe until then, and we'll just keep plugging away at it.
And get a few upgrades on the way through, eh?
That'd be nice.
100%.
Just give us a quick update on how your morning's been going so far, Peter.
I've had a pretty good morning. It's better than yesterday. I've had more bites. The problem is I just don't have any fish in the well. I've got 2 little guys and got snapped off twice by what felt like decent fish, and I dropped another one. I probably should have had my bag, but that's fishing, unfortunately. As tough as it is, I just got to keep my head down and try and fill that well now.
Cheers, bud. Thanks.
There we go. So we had Liam, Ben and Peter giving us a little bit of an overview on their morning so far. Liam especially, like yesterday, we got a little update from him. He was a bit doom and gloom. Fishing sucks, I want to take up golf. But no, he was talking, it was such a grind. But I think they've just been so used to those big Sydney Habour bags that these fish are not as big as we've seen in the past, but he got 3.2 kilos, a bit over 3.2 kilos. That had him up there in the sort of top 5 of the field going into day 2, and so he should have been impressed. And again today, it's a struggle, it's a grind, but Liam currently, we can see on the scoreboard there, he's sitting in 4th place, so he's doing all right.
He's doing, certainly within striking distance, and just because they're used to seeing those bags, more bags in the 4 to 5 kilo mark. So
So we'll keep watching this space, but I think they do. We spoke a little bit about it yesterday. They put so much pressure on themselves going into these events, and they all want the biggest, fattest, chunkiest fish. But when it's a tough bite, it's not just tough for you, it's tough for everyone out there. And so A 3 kilo, 3.5 kilo bag is sort of what you need for this event to be in the money and to stay competitive going into day 3.
And look, and sometimes the difference between somebody in the top of the field and lower down is like we've seen, if you've been watching the live stream with Steve, he's actually landed most of his fish. I don't know that I've seen him bust off today. But then you go down to Peter, who just gave us a report and said he's lost 3 fish. So, you know, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't.
When it's your time, it's your time, and when it all comes together, it all comes together.
That's it, and that's what it's going to take to win an Open, I'd imagine.
So the arena, Sydney Habour, it's a beautiful arena. Sydney can be a bit of a grind on the road, getting from one side of it to the other. You need to pack lunch sometimes. But on the water, it is absolutely magical. We've got these guys there driving under the Sydney Habour Bridge. We're getting photos with the Opera House in the background. It's a bit of a sightseeing expedition for them as much as it is fishing. Steve Morgan, he's put together for us a bit of an overview of this arena so you at home can get a bit of an idea of just how spread out the guys can be and what options they've got available for them this week here in Sydney. Why don't we quickly play that one, and we'll come back to you shortly with some more updates from the water.
There's a reason that the BREAM Australian Open goes to Sydney each year. It's picturesque, iconic and full of big bream. Our event base for the Daiwa BREAM Australian Open is here at Drummoyne Sailing Club, just west of the Harbour Bridge. Anglers will be fishing upstream in the Parramatta River, where the main river and the bays off it have plenty of big bream. Moving downstream, iconic locations like Blackwattle Bay house the Sydney fish markets. And of course, everybody knows the Sydney Harbour Bridge. There it is, crossing the harbour in the narrow point right there. Move east into the Eastern Harbour and we have reefs like Sow and Pigs, where Jamie McEwen has won lots of money over the years. Anglers that want to run a bit further can fish Manly with the moored boats and flats yielding plenty of fish. And of course there's Middle Harbour, which is like a national park in the middle of a big city. It's a great arena. It's going to have to last for 3 days, and anglers from all over the East Coast are going to love it.
Oh, so there we go. Thank you so much for that, Steve, giving us a bit of an overview of what this Sydney Habour arena entails. One of the spots that's been quite good, it's hit or miss. It's either produces the winning fish or it's a desert wasteland. It's Lane Cove, and it's been the site a couple years ago. You would, if you remember, been following the event. Michael Colatouris, he caught that giant when we were going live to him to take out his BREAM Australian Open win. But also, you've got some interesting stats, and Lane Cove was the site of one of the biggest comebacks in Open history too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So Wayne Reid and Adrian Neo, they were in 15th place coming into day 3 and pulled in a bag over 6 kilos, so 6.18 to move up into 3rd position. So if you put that into context and say if someone pulls a bag, in the high 5s or early 6s, it could make a massive difference. It actually brings most of the people back into play, and it's definitely possible. The harbour is one of the places where these bags are possible, and with the wind conditions changing over the comp, the conditions are changing, so the big fish might come out and chew later today and tomorrow.
And wasn't there too a 10th to 1st victory out of Lane Cove at one point?
There was a 10th to 1st. I'd love to tell you who that is, but I can't remember off the top of my head, so there you go.
All right, we'll come to you with that story tomorrow. I think we've got to pick Steve's brain. He can just rattle off these facts like no one's business. Why don't we cross to another couple of anglers, and then we'll come back. We might talk a little bit about the event's history and how we've wound up on Sydney Habour for 3 days straight this year. I've got an update coming up for us from Frank Carabetta, and then we'll cross to Mark Crompton. Mark Crompton has been a Daiwa angler since forever and a day. Let's see how these guys are going out on the water.
All right, we've got Frank Carabetta, day 2, 2023 Australian Open on the Sydney Harbour. Tough morning so far, Frank?
It's been a tough morning. We had 2 chances early up that I didn't convert, unfortunately. But I guess that's fishing, but I haven't had another bite since. I don't know if it's shut down or don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. We're just going to start running and jumping and spot, just see how we go. keep casting until the end.
Any theories why it's such a tough bite? Why they're shut down?
Sydney Habour.
Typical.
Pretty much. Not enough floating bodies.
No worries. And you've done the Australian Open a couple of times before?
Yeah, twice before, a few years ago. Awesome event. I would recommend it to everyone who enjoys their fishing.
Fantastic. All right. Well, good luck for the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Hey Mark, how's your morning going so far?
Started good. Started really good. Got a couple of good fish early, and then I think I've only got 3 fish, so not really much. Still pretty slow. It's not the Sydney Habour and the Sydney Habour that we used to do.
Thanks a lot, mate.
So a little bit of wind there where Mark is. It is windy out on the water. We've been talking about that, so apologise for that audio. Let's have a look at that scoreboard. Mark Crompton, he is a past BREAM Australian Open champion, I think about 3-4 years ago now. He's struggling a bit out there today, isn't he?
He is definitely struggling. Like you said, he got a couple of fish earlier. But yeah, it's unusual to see him. He's in 20th position at the moment, so unusual to see him down that low on the leaderboard.
Someone else who's there, you can see on our scoreboard on the screen there in 21st position, another Australian, 2-time Australian Open champion, Jamie McEwen.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be loving sitting in 21st.
No, he'd be very disappointed with that, and I'm sure it'd be quite tense out there for him. But having said that, he's one of the guys that could bring in a 5-kilo bag if things work for him. So, hopefully he turns that around and we see something big hit the scales.
He's notorious. He loves his little reef out in the harbour. It's no secret. He will happily sit there all day, but it just hasn't come into play this time round.
No, that's right. I mean, he said he did drop a couple. He dropped a good fish late yesterday. So, that's one of those things where, it certainly affects you at the end of the competition.
So yeah, Jamie's gone exploring. Mark's struggling a little bit. Hopefully those guys, they haven't quite got their bags just yet. We've still got a couple hours left of tournament fishing time. So hopefully we'll see them fill out and get those 5 out of 5s and make them happy, because when they're happy, we can all be happy.
Oh, exactly.
The BREAM Australian Open, it's an iconic event held in Sydney each year. When you think Australia, you think Sydney Habour Bridge, you think Opera House. Like, where else could you hold a BREAM Australian Open than this great fishery? Yeah. We've got a trophy that goes back. I've got winners down there since 2004. It was a teams event when the Australian Open first begun. So that ran 2004 through to 2011. It was a teams event. Higher entry, I think the teams paid $1,000 entry to participate. It was 3 days on Sydney Habour. And then when the GFC happened, sponsorship sort of dropped off a little bit, so the event just took a little hiatus. It did not run for a year or two.
That's right.
But then when it came back, we had Graham Franklin, awesome supporter of ABT, loved his bream fishing, loved this event, wanted to see it back up and running, and he put his money where his mouth was to get it going again. And Graham's vision, he wanted to see a multi-arena tournament, and that's when the event sort of evolved into that one day on the harbour. We'd head up to the Hawkesbury for a day and then come back to the harbour to round out the tournament. Had its benefits, like the fish got a bit of a break here in the harbour. We saw those consistent bags. It didn't necessarily get tougher on day 3. But then this year, we've decided to bring it back. We had a chat with our sponsor, Daiwa. They were happy to do it, so we brought it back to that one venue, and it's really proving to be a real test to the anglers. It's boater only, so it is them alone with their own thoughts, all their gear. They're the only ones that can make decisions and get the job done. And it's proving to be a real test. We've had some equipment failures already. It's a test on the anglers, it's a test on their gear, their boats. Sticking it out to day 3, it is a real feather in the cap to see it through and to do well in this event.
That's exactly right. And over 3 days, plus the pre-fish, so 4 days, if you've got one spot, it's probably not going to hold up. So you're going to have to manage your spots and maybe scope out some new spots, which I think you'll see that the anglers higher up the leaderboard will be doing to catch the bigger fish over 3 days. And certainly Steve up the top, he loves moving around. He has a milk run that he follows, so he's not just hammering the same spot.
So I think it would, while we're talking about the history of the event, we should certainly mention the fact this is the trophy is a Greg Lee Memorial Trophy. So the Lee family, when the event first started, so we're thinking the Lee family, it's from Bing Lee fame. Great supporters of the event in its early days. Unfortunately, Greg, he is no longer with us, but because of this trophy, his name lives on, associated with the event and the great support the Lee family did in getting this event established and sort of being a part of where it is today.
Yeah, and I think, and I could be really wrong on this, but I think the attempt to first win was actually Greg Lee. I think he was the one that came back with, is it Di Battista? I'm not sure, but I'm sure that's the one where they came from 10th place, came from nowhere to take it out. So,
down in Lane Cove. I have a note here. It says Lane Cove can play nice to our anglers when it wants to.
It is a place of big bream, so we could see some big bags if anyone ventures up into that area. So,
we've had some updates come through again. So I've got Ahmed Mafood ready and lined up to go. Why don't we cross to him? He went out this morning sitting in 10th place, I think it was. So he's a little bit of a correction from yesterday. So Ahmed Mafood on our app estimator board, he was absolutely killing it. We were ready for him to walk up to the scales yesterday afternoon with dragging this bag up the beach.
Not being able to carry it.
So he was about a kilo clear of the rest of the field. Turns out when he was putting his fish through to us, he was using tip length instead of fork length to work out an estimate for his fish. So that gave him those extra few hundred grams at the end of the day. So we've adjusted that, and Ahmed's fish we're working off fork length today.
Yes, so that should be much more
a closer estimate today. So that just clarifies that if you were wondering why Ahmed was so far ahead on the estimator scoreboard and then weighed a much lighter bag at the scales, it's because we were estimating off tip length, not fork length, which will definitely have an impact on those weights.
Exactly. 3 to 4 centimetres of fish is the difference, which is a lot of weight.
For sure. So let's cross. We've got Ahmed lined up. We'll be back with you guys shortly.
Yep. Quick update. We've got 2 fish. Not bad. Bit of a struggle, bit of a grind. The wind's not in our favour, but let's see if we can get our 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Okay, so in terms of prize money for this event, you roll the clock back to the beginning. It started off with a 10k prize pool, which was split amongst the 2 anglers, and then this year we roll forward to 2023. Single anglers with top pay check this time is going to be $6,000. Is that correct?
$6,000 for first prize. So this is a 100% payback event, as all our Australian Opens are. That means 100% of entry fees that we get from anglers, so it was $500 entry fee to participate this week, goes straight into the prize pool, which gives us, with 33 anglers, a little over $16,500 for this weekend. So yeah, first prize $6,000. We're paying cash down to 6th place, and then 7th place down, we've got some awesome product prizes from our good sponsor Daiwa for those anglers. So yeah, lots of prizes, big presentation coming up tomorrow afternoon.
Exactly. I had a quick look over there where the prize pool is, and there's quite a stash of stuff there. So it'll be interesting to see how the
Do we have to stock take the prize pool, Andrew?
Maybe. I did have a close look, let me tell you.
Wally Fahey, an angler, shot to the top of the leaderboard yesterday. I think he even surprised himself a little bit. Doing a great job out there. He runs, you look at the deck of Wally's boat when he's heading out in the mornings, there's no room for anglers because of all the Daiwa rods and reels lined up, stacked out across both sides of the boat. We've got a catch through from Wally for you guys to check out, and then a bit of an update from our day one leader, seeing how he's going. I think he was still sort of sitting in that top 10. He might have dropped down from 5th to 6th while we've been running the show. But we'll come back to you after we get an update from Wally Fahey.
Wally Fahey here, having a pretty tough morning. Only got 2 fish in the well. Yeah, it's just a little bit worse than yesterday. Tried my top water this morning and just didn't work. So just fishing around the boats at the moment, just trying to scrape up a bag at least and to see how we go from there.
So there's our day one leader, Wally Fahey. He's got 4 on the estimator scoreboard at the moment. Couple of mid-sized ones, a couple of squeakers. He's really looking for those kicker fish. Wants to get rid of those little 250 gram just legals. We'll wait and see what Wally brings to the scales this afternoon. But we were talking a little bit earlier about that length weight curve estimator and how that was reflected when the guys were using this to estimate against the actual weights on the scales yesterday afternoon. I know you absolutely love your stats, and you tell me, give me a spreadsheet of the results. I want to go through it. Run us through some of the cool facts from yesterday's weigh-in.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. So yesterday we weighed in 137 fish, which gave us an average of 540 grams per fish. And interestingly, Wally, who was in first position, his average fish was 736 grams, so 200 grams clear of the field in those terms. And then today, as it stands, our leader Steve, our leader as in not our leader but the guy that's in first, he's on about 709 grams per fish, so just a little bit behind Wally yesterday. But I guess that gives you kind of an idea of what sort of fish you're going to need to catch on these conditions to be right up the top.
For sure. While we're talking about Steve, we did have a bit of an update come through from him. Why don't we cross to that and then we'll come back, start winding this thing up, because we've got a weigh-in to get ready. So let's cross to Steve. We'll be back to you in a couple of minutes.
G'day, Steve Morgan here. Had a really slow start this morning. Fished some of my prime banks up Middle Harbour, and it was basically pretty useless. Didn't catch my first eagle for a few hours, but now the sun's come up and the tide's dropped down. This boat fishing with the live scope and mussels is really coming into play. Got my limit in about maybe 60 to 90 minutes after that, and I've just had 3 decent upgrades. So haven't checked the scoreboard, but should be near the pointy end, and day 2 of the Open is now going the right way. Bit shaky at the start, but we're getting it done now. Watch out, Tommy Slater. I'm coming for you.
There we go, Steve Morgan. He's on fire at the moment. It's all just coming together for him. If he's bass fishing, brim fishing, it's just all lining up.
Exactly. Is he going to take the double? Is he going to take the bass and the brim? It's certainly looking like it's going to be possible.
Be an impressive feat. I don't think that's happened before ever in ABT history.
Exactly.
Certainly not in the same year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an impressive display, like I've said before. I guess the highlights package that comes through tonight will show you that he's just brained him for a couple of hours and given just a masterclass on the Must 3 pound straight through fluoro and Garmin LiveScope. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, it's really going to be a place to have a look at.
Definitely, you can follow all that. It gets posted on Steve's personal channels. It gets shared out through the ABT Angler Network on Facebook. You can follow all that on our website after the session finishes. Plenty of coverage all week. It's all bream all week here at ABT. We can't get away. We've got more angler updates coming through, and these are the cool ones. These are our Daiwa sponsored anglers, so we want to show them a lot of love. We love Daiwa and the support they give to this event. ABT members, don't forget there is a special offer on at the moment for in-feet lures at selected ABT tackle store members. Check your emails, check on the ABT socials. There is a special offer, in-feet lures. I think it's buy 5, get 20% off. So very cool, great opportunity to stock up as we head to the Hawkesbury this weekend for the Daiwa sponsored round of the Daiwa Bream Series.
Yeah.
Couple days on the Hawkesbury River. I think we're going to see some good fish come in from there too.
I think so. And look, the other thing that Daiwa's got going on, they got their bait junkie promotion. So buy a packet of bait junkie lures at presently, punch it into the Daiwa website with your receipt. You get one ticket in the chance to win a Hobie Outback that's wrapped. Great promotion from Daiwa.
Very cool. They're always doing something at Daiwa. Those guys never sit still. Another man that never sits still, and he's been travelling all around the countryside for the last 18 months. We saw him return to ABT tournament fishing at the start of this year. Took out the Malakuta round from the front of the boat. Kris Hickson, another angler that can, if it swims, he can catch it.
Yep.
Let's cross to him. He's got Brett Habner. Sorry, not Braden. Brett is out on the water braving the wind and the weather. Daiwa does put together their pursuit series at the end of these opens. They follow one angler in their journey through the event, the highs, the lows, the decision-making process, see how it all comes together. So no doubt we'll see some promos and see the final product of Kris Hickson's day on the water coming out in the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned for that on the Daiwa channels.
Absolutely. Something to look forward to.
Definitely, but for now, let's get a quick update on how Kris is going. I want to tell you, wherever Kris is fishing right now, it just makes me want to go there with the cocktail and relax for the afternoon. Beautiful spot. Here's Kris Hickson for you now.
We've got about 10:45. It's actually a bit later than I thought it was. Been a slow morning. We've chipped away, got a couple of decent bag fish and 2 real little ones in there. Probably a better start size-wise than yesterday. Numbers-wise, struggling a little bit. The tide dropped out a bit quicker than expected, and then a couple of the spots just didn't produce. So just thought I'd come and check some boats on that dropping tide, see some fish moving off the banks or come up. Only fishing the high fish, not worrying about fishing deep. Seen a couple. It's just about to make another move and start sort of grinding away and spot hopping. Hopefully we can find something a little bit better. Pretty windy today. It's been a bit of a challenge. I can't really get into a few of the spots that I was hoping to fish. A little bit too much swell and just a little bit too much wind and chop blowing me in there, so it's really hard to control the boat. But aside from that, pretty happy with the morning so far. It's good to have a bag, good to have a couple of decent keepers in there, and a few hours left to get some upgrades.
There we go. Kris Hickson is in 7th place on our leaderboard, but we're just waiting on a couple of those catches to come through. He says he's got his bag. We've only got 2 on the scoreboard, and Kris has quite the reputation for underestimating his fish.
Yeah, or overestimating, hard to know.
Yesterday he was a few 100 grams under. He's terrible at knowing what his fish weigh. So sitting in 7th, he's got his bag. We're not too sure what the other 3 fish are that make up that bag, but definitely filling that out is going to push him way up that leaderboard from 7th place. Watch this space. Keep an eye on those live scoreboards, the estimator scoreboards. They're running all session over on the ABT website. There's links on our Facebook page. If you just scroll down, if you're watching on Facebook, there's a post underneath this one. Gives you links straight through to those scoreboards. And then, of course, at 2 p.m, live from the back dock here at Drummoyne Sailing Club, we'll have our live weigh-in. Live stream to you guys, those live weights from the weigh-in going straight up so you can follow all the action through that weigh-in as well.
Yeah, very good.
There's only one angler left, and Tom, we tease him a little bit. Tom can outperform anyone on day one. Then he kind of gets a bit of the going on day two. We'll give him a bit of a hard time for it, but he is certainly backing it up here today on day two on Sydney Habour. He's sitting in second place. Him and Steve, the only anglers to have over 6 kilos. He gets his bag quite early in the piece, and I know he's looking to upgrade. He's got a squeaker in there he's desperate to get rid of.
Yeah. Definitely, with a couple of smaller fish in the bag, I'd expect something bigger to hit the scales by the time 2 o'clock rolls around.
So Tom sent us through an update. He's got Richard from Daiwa out on him. So just like we're following Kris and doing a story on Kris, Tom's also involved in that pursuit series. So you'll be able to check out Tom's journey through the 2023 BREAM Australian Open up on the Daiwa networks in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But for now, we're going to wrap up this show. We're going to play us out with an update from Tom Slater. We're going to go out the back, set up some scales, and get ready to see all these boats come in for a 2 p.m. weigh-in. We'll catch you tomorrow from 11 o'clock when we do our last mid-session updates.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens on day 3 of the Open, see who comes home and takes the big check.
We're just getting into the groove of it. We're already talking about it being over.
Yeah, we certainly are.
Alrighty, here's Tom Slater. Set the alarm 2 p.m. and we'll see you out the back for our weigh-in. Until then, have a great day.
Alright, so a little 10 o'clock update. Have the 5. Got 2 decent ones this morning and 3 little ones, all pretty much on the Spike 44 EXDR in Sunnygill. So used a few different colours, but Sunnygill got the big ones. I really like that colour for Sydney and the Hawkesbury. So I think the crankbaiting bite's pretty much done for the morning, so now it's time to work back up the river and see if we can upgrade those small ones on some risky critters, I think. So see how we go.